The August sun beat down on Riverdale Stadium with unusual intensity as the crowd roared. Jennifer Miller's hand clenched her daughter's small fingers just a little too tightly. 10-year-old Sarah squirmed beneath her grip but didn't complain. It was the first baseball game they'd attended since Jennifer's divorce, and her anxiety manifested in these small, unconscious gestures of protectiveness. "Mom, I'm going to the bathroom," Sarah announced, tugging her hand free. Jennifer hesitated, scanning the crowded stands. "I don't know, honey. It's pretty packed today." A woman in the row ahead turned around. "My niece Emma needs to go too. They can go together." She gestured to a tiny girl with blonde pigtails who couldn't have been more than 4. Jennifer wavered, calculating the risk. The restrooms were just down the concrete steps, visible from their seats. The woman, Linda Gordon, seemed trustworthy enough in her sensible blouse and mom jeans. 5 minutes, Sarah. Straight there and back, Jennifer instructed, watching as Sarah took Emma's hand. The two girls disappeared into the river of bodies flowing through the concourse. 7 minutes later, Jennifer checked her watch. The knot in her stomach tightened. 10 minutes. She stood, scanning the crowd. Linda caught her eye, eyebrows raised in silent question. 12 minutes. "I'm going to check on them," Jennifer announced, already moving. Linda nodded, rising to join her. They never found the girls. Not at the restrooms. Not at the concession stands. Not anywhere in Riverdale Stadium or the surrounding blocks that were combed by police for the next 72 hours. Sarah Miller and Emma Gordon had vanished, as if the crowd had simply swallowed them whole. Detective Marcus Reid stared at their photographs pinned to the incident board, Sarah with her gap-toothed smile and Emma clutching a stuffed rabbit. Their disappearance from Riverdale Stadium on August 25, 1973, had become his obsession over the past week. Witness statements cluttered his desk, contradictory, confusing, and frustratingly vague. 3 different people claimed they saw the girls with a man near the east exit, Officer Daniels reported, dropping another folder on Reid's overflowing desk. But their descriptions don't match. One says he was tall with dark hair, another says medium build with light hair, and the third says he was heavy-set with a cap covering his features. Reid rubbed his temples. What about the stadium security footage? Grainy and incomplete. The cameras near that exit were on a rotation cycle. We have footage of the concourse, but there's a blind spot by the restrooms. Reid picked up the photograph of the girls again. Sarah's eyes, eerily serious for a 10-year-old, seemed to follow him, demanding answers he couldn't give. He'd been working missing persons for 12 years, but this case burrowed under his skin in a way others hadn't. What about the maintenance worker? The one with priors? Reid asked. Alibi checks out. He was fixing a blocked drain in the West Wing when the girls disappeared. Multiple witnesses confirm it. Reid pushed back from his desk, pacing the small, cluttered office. Outside, rain began to tap against the window, matching his darkening mood. The first 48 hours were crucial in missing persons cases. Now, a week later, the trail was growing colder by the minute. I want to interview the Miller and Gordon women again, he decided. Separately this time. There's something we're missing. Jennifer Miller's apartment was sparse, with moving boxes still stacked in corners despite her having lived there for 6 months. Reid noted the absence of photographs or personal touches, except for the shrine-like arrangement of Sarah's toys on the coffee table. A silent testimony to frozen time. Mrs. Miller, I know we've been over this, but I need you to walk me through that day again, Reid said gently. Every detail matters, even things that might seem insignificant. Jennifer's fingers twisted a tissue into shreds. I've told you everything. Sarah was wearing her blue striped shirt and denim overalls. She had her hair in a ponytail. She'd been excited about the game for weeks. What about in the days before? Did Sarah mention meeting anyone new? A friend at school, someone in the neighborhood? No, Jennifer paused, her forehead creasing. Wait. There was a man who spoke to her at the park the weekend before. I didn't think anything of it then. Reid leaned forward. What man? He was walking a dog, a German shepherd, I think. Sarah wanted to pet it. I was sitting on a bench maybe 20 feet away. I couldn't hear what they were saying, but it seemed innocent enough. The interaction only lasted a minute. Can you describe him? Average height. Dark jacket despite the heat. I remember thinking that was odd. And a baseball cap pulled low. Reid scribbled notes, his pulse quickening. Which park was this? Mill Creek Park. It's about 3 blocks from here. Reid nodded, already planning to request security footage from surrounding businesses. One more thing, Mrs. Miller. Your ex-husband, have you spoken with him since Sarah's disappearance? Jennifer's face hardened. Robert has been in Seattle for the past 6 months. He called when he heard about Sarah, but he's been distant since the divorce. I don't think he's involved, if that's what you're asking. Reid kept his expression neutral. We need to explore every possibility. Do you have a recent address for him? As he left Jennifer's apartment, Reid's radio crackled to life. Daniel's voice came through, tight with urgency. Detective, we've got a potential witness. Says he saw the girls being led to a blue sedan in the parking lot. Claims he didn't come forward earlier because he has a record and was afraid of being hassled. I'm on my way. The witness, Wayne Morley, mid-40s with the weathered complexion of a career alcoholic, fidgeted in the interrogation room. His eyes darted to the corners, never settling. I ain't supposed to be at the stadium that day, he began, scratching at a scab on his wrist. Got a restraining order from my ex who works concessions. But I needed to talk to her about our son, see? Reid didn't comment on the admission. Tell me what you saw. These 2 little girls, holding hands. There was a man with his hand on the older one's shoulder. She looked, not right. Like she was scared but trying to be brave. And the younger girl? She was just following along. Didn't seem to realize anything was wrong. The man, describe him. Morley's description matched the man Jennifer had mentioned at the park, medium height, baseball cap, dark jacket. And he added one crucial detail, he had a limp. Left leg, I think. The car. Blue Ford. Older model, maybe 68 or 69. Had some rust on the fender. Reid felt the familiar surge of adrenaline that came with a solid lead. Could you identify this man if you saw him again? Morley hesitated. Maybe. It was getting dark. But yeah, I think so. By evening, they had a sketch artist's rendering and a list of registered owners of blue Ford sedans within a 50-mile radius. Reid dispatched officers to check each one, prioritizing those with criminal records or connections to the stadium area. He pinned the sketch beside the girls' photos on the incident board, stepping back to study the face, unremarkable except for deep-set eyes and a scar along the jawline. The kind of face that could blend into any crowd. The kind of face people forgot. The kind of face that haunted him as he finally drove home at 2 a.m., the case files spread across his passenger seat. Linda Gordon met Reid at a coffee shop the next morning, her eyes puffy from lack of sleep. Unlike Jennifer's controlled composure, Linda's grief spilled over in trembling hands and unfinished sentences. Emma was staying with me while my sister was in the hospital, she explained, stirring her untouched coffee. Just for the weekend. I promised I'd keep her safe. Mrs. Gordon, did Emma interact with anyone unusual in the days before the game? Linda shook her head. She was only with me for 2 days before it happened. We went shopping, watched cartoons, baked cookies. Her voice broke. She was so excited about the game. It was her first time at the stadium. And at the game itself? Before the girls went to the restroom? Nothing out of, Linda stopped abruptly. Actually, There was a vendor. He gave Emma a free balloon animal. Said she reminded him of his daughter. Do you remember what he looked like? No, I wasn't really paying attention. But he was wearing the stadium uniform, the red and white striped shirt. Reid made a note to check the vendor records. One last question. The decision for the girls to go to the restroom together, whose idea was that? Linda blinked, confusion crossing her face. I'm not sure. I think it was Sarah who said Emma needed to go. Yes, that's right. Sarah said, Emma needs to go too, and I suggested they go together. The detail nagged at Reid as he drove to the station. According to Jennifer, Sarah had announced she needed the restroom first. Why would Sarah speak for Emma? Back at his desk, Reid sorted through the mountain of witness statements again. A stadium security guard claimed he'd seen two girls matching Sarah and Emma's description near the east exit, but 15 minutes before Jennifer and Linda reported them missing. A concession worker remembered a man buying 2 ice creams for girls who might have been Sarah and Emma, but an hour after they'd disappeared. The timeline wasn't adding up. Reid spread a stadium map across his desk, marking the reported sightings with red pins. The pattern seemed random until he connected them chronologically, forming a deliberate path from the girls' seats to the east parking lot. His phone rang. Reid here. Detective, it's Daniels. We've got something on the blue Ford. It's registered to a Joseph Mercer, 45. Lives on the outskirts of town, worked maintenance at Riverdale Stadium until 3 months ago when he was fired for inappropriate behavior toward female staff. Reid's heart rate picked up. Criminal record? Nothing major. Public intoxication, petty theft. But get this, he walks with a limp from a workplace injury last year. Send a patrol car to his address. Don't approach, just observe. I'm on my way. Mercer's house was a dilapidated single-story on 2 acres of overgrown land. No sign of the blue Ford in the driveway. The patrol officers reported no movement inside for the past hour. Reid approached cautiously, gun drawn, Daniels covering his flank. The front door was unlocked, never a good sign. The smell hit them immediately, decay and neglect. The house was empty except for sparse furniture and layers of filth. In the kitchen, dishes mouldered in the sink. Mail had piled up on the counter, the newest postmarked 3 days before the girl's disappearance. He's in the wind, Reid muttered. In the bedroom, they found newspaper clippings about the missing girls pinned to the wall. Beside them, older clippings, 3 more cases of missing children from neighboring counties, dating back 5 years. And beneath the bed, a child's hair ribbon. Blue, like the one Sarah had been wearing. The investigation exploded after that. Joseph Mercer's face dominated the evening news. His employment records revealed he'd worked at venues near each of the previous disappearances. His landlord confirmed he'd left abruptly, owing 2 months' rent. A statewide manhunt began. 3 days later, a gas station attendant in a small town 80 miles west recognized Mercer from the news. The blue Ford had been there, he reported. Mercer hadn't been alone. There were 2 kids with him, the attendant told Reid over the phone. Girls. The older one looked scared. When I asked if everything was okay, the man said they were his daughters and were just tired from the long drive. And you let them go? Reid couldn't keep the accusation from his voice. This was 2 days before I saw the news report, the attendant said defensively. They headed west on Highway 16. Reid dispatched patrols along Highway 16, focusing on motels and rest stops. He updated Jennifer and Linda hourly, watching hope and despair wage war in their eyes. Meanwhile, forensic teams combed through Mercer's house and car records. They discovered he'd recently purchased a different vehicle, a brown Chevrolet, under a false name. The net widened. 5 days after finding Mercer's house, Reid got the call he'd been dreading. A brown Chevrolet had been found abandoned near Miller's Creek, a remote woodland area 30 miles from the gas station sighting. No sign of Mercer or the girls. The creek had swollen from recent rains, its currents swift and dangerous. Search teams with dogs combed the surrounding forest, but the first day yielded nothing. As darkness fell, Reid stood on the muddy bank, staring into the churning water, haunted by possibilities. The search resumed at dawn. By noon, they'd found a child's shoe caught among rocks downstream, matched to the pair Emma had been wearing. 2 hours later, a helicopter spotted a tarp-covered structure deep in the woods. Reid's team approached the crude shelter with dread. Inside, they found blankets, food wrappers, and 2 small backpacks, but no Mercer, no girls. Evidence suggested they'd left in haste, perhaps when they heard the search helicopters. He's moving them again, Reid realized. Call in roadblocks on every route out of these woods. By nightfall, the roadblocks had produced no results. The search expanded, resources stretched thin as hours ticked by. Reid hadn't slept in 36 hours, running on coffee and fierce determination. As he sat in his car reviewing maps of the area, his radio crackled. "Detective Reid?" The voice belonged to a forest ranger he'd briefed earlier. "We've found something. An old hunting cabin about 5 miles north of the creek. Lights were on, but by the time we got close, it was empty. Looks like they left minutes before we arrived. Any sign of which direction they went?" "Not yet. But there's only one road out of that area. It eventually hits County Road 27. Reid checked his map. County Road 27 led to the interstate, or deeper into the mountains. If Mercer reached the interstate with the girls, direct all units to that road, he ordered. And get me a helicopter. From the air, the dense forest revealed little. Reid scanned the darkness below, searching for headlights, movement, anything. The pilot followed County Road 27, flying low enough that branches seemed to reach for the helicopter's skids. Then, a flash of metal in the moonlight, a vehicle moving erratically along a narrow dirt track that split from the main road. "There." Reid pointed. "Can you get lower?" As the helicopter descended, the vehicle accelerated, weaving dangerously between trees. The pilot switched on the searchlight, illuminating a brown Chevrolet. "All units converge on the dirt track off County Road the 27, mile marker 42, Reid radioed. Suspect vehicle located." The Chevrolet fishtailed on the muddy track, nearly crashing into a tree, before regaining traction. Inside, Reid could make out one adult figure, and movement in the back seat. The helicopter pilot kept pace as patrol cars responded from both directions. The dirt track eventually emerged onto a wider gravel road, where officers had established a roadblock. Cornered, the Chevrolet skidded to a halt. For a tense moment, nothing happened. Then the driver's door opened, and Joseph Mercer emerged, hands raised. Officers swarmed the vehicle, weapons drawn. Reid's heart stopped as they opened the back doors. Sarah and Emma were huddled together on the back seat, dirty, frightened, but alive. Sarah had her arm protectively around the younger girl, her eyes wild with fear and defiance. As Reid escorted them to safety, Sarah whispered something that chilled him. There were others. At the cabin. He said we were lucky, we were the ones he decided to keep. In the days that followed, as Mercer awaited trial in custody, search teams scoured the hunting cabin and surrounding areas. They found disturbing evidence suggesting Mercer had abducted children before, and that not all had survived. Sarah and Emma gradually revealed fragments of their ordeal through gentle questioning. They spoke of other locations besides the cabin, a basement, a trailer, and mentioned Mercer sometimes taking phone calls from someone he called the client. Despite intensive investigation, this mysterious client was never identified. Mercer himself refused to cooperate, maintaining a smug silence broken only by cryptic comments about part of something bigger than you can imagine. The case officially closed with Mercer's conviction, but for Detective Reid, questions lingered. The references to the client, the other locations the girls described that were never found, the possibility of accomplices who remained free, these loose ends nagged at him. 5 years later, another child vanished from a crowded public place in a neighboring state. The methods were identical, but Joseph Mercer remained securely imprisoned. The new detective assigned to the case reached out to Reid, by then promoted to a desk job he resented. "Do you think there could be a connection?" the younger detective asked. Reid stared at the case file, remembering Sarah's whispered words, "There were others." He thought of Mercer's cryptic comments about being part of something bigger. "Keep digging," he advised, a familiar unease settling in his bones. "And watch for a man in a dark jacket, wearing a cap pulled low. He'll be walking with a slight limp." Somewhere, Reid knew, the real answers remained hidden, along with the full truth of what happened to the children who never came home.